Great. Well, I'm going to shift gears here for a little bit and just talk about a couple of features that you've built, and maybe even some of them you stumbled onto, even though you're a great product guy, that I think are really cool. And whenever I tell people about them, they're like, "Oh man, I need my grandma to get this," or I need to meet this team because it is just fascinating. I'd love to get you to give a little commentary on each, why they're so critical for your mission to connect the greatest generation with their children and grandchildren, or any other commentary that you think the listeners might find useful. So first off, I'd love to talk about music. I think that music is one of the key things. I'd like you to talk about why music is so important, and also just the product decisions you made, because I believe that you see Pandora or Spotify or whatever, I don't think that matters, but I think you do something under the hood that they may not understand what they're doing, but you do it in a way where it's a good outcome for grandma.
Yeah. So music is a key part of GrandPad. And first, I've always loved music. I'm not a musician. I wish I could play, but I just have always really felt how music can deeply move people and change their state, whether it makes them happy and want to dance, or chills them out and helps them relax, or, helps change the mood. And so I've always felt that. And as we started on this journey, I started really studying that. And I very early on saw this great documentary called Alive Inside. And it'd be a great one to put in the show notes. I actually subsequently have met the film producer, won a Sundance Film Award, but it's a documentary about the power of music and how music can help, especially seniors that have cognitive issues, whether it's Alzheimer's, dementia, anxiety, depression, and how it can really help them better than any, sadly, as we all know, there is no cure or prevention for many of these neurological diseases like Alzheimer's. But music can at least help bring relief, and it doesn't have all the negative side effects of various pharmaceuticals.
But again, back to your original thesis, it's nearly impossible for grandma to navigate the digital world. I can't even imagine trying to find music on a tape anymore, right, or a DVD or a CD. It's right. It's just mind-numbingly complex, and grandma isn't going to have iTunes or Spotify, right? Or
right.
Pandora.
Yeah. Exactly. And again, when we were in the homes of seniors, we'd see a lot of them still had a hi-fi system or a record player, and they would pull out their album and they'd listen to Frank Sinatra, right? And
that's what the hipsters want to listen to, but
right, yeah, that's coming back. So we knew the need, we saw it as important, and frankly, this was one of the hardest things that we solved, not from a technical standpoint. Playing music on a tablet is easy. It's the licensing and the business model. So Isaac searched for several years, and finally he found a great firm in London that's basically a music wholesaler, and we license their service and pay them for a very valuable service. They work with 300 record labels across the world, and then so of course everything is completely legal, licensed, and we have two types: streaming and downloading music. And so if I go to the music button here,
it looks great, by the way. It's
and I can go to my favorites, and let's hear a little Elvis. Right? Or maybe you prefer a little Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
So a couple things I'll point out, right? So the UI is obviously very different and easy and simple. But notice here, front-facing speakers, two big front-facing speakers with a special sound channel behind. It is technical specs, the loudest, clearest tablet speakers, because if I'm 90 and have eyesight issues and tremors, it's too hard for me to mess around with putting in headphones and making all that work. So I can just set it here on our awesome little docking station, our wireless docking station, that sits on the table, that's plugs into the wall.
Well, let's
And
talk about that docking station real quickly, because that's a big, bulky docking station. But
yep.
I can't imagine my grandma plugging her iPad in like it with this little USB-C or Thunderbolt. Like it's so. When did you have that insight, or how did you come up with that insight that you?
Yeah, we were in the home of a senior, and this was a lady who was in her 80s. She had an iPad, and she had it plugged in, the little lightning adapter, but she had kind of taped the cord on, and she had a really long, like 100-foot extension cord. And I'm like, there's a battery in there. You don't have to keep it plugged in all the time. And she said, no, I know. But one time it came unplugged, and I had to wait 2 weeks before my son came back and helped me, because she had severe tremors. She had severe eyesight issues, macular degeneration, sadly, or is very common with this group. And so she's like, this is my connection to the outside world. I can't have it lose power. So that's when we said, well, that's not practical. Let's come up, and we came up with this wireless docking station.
That's fantastic.
And
I think for folks listening who don't know about products, it's not these things that seem simple, these insights that seem simple are very difficult to get right. And this has been my joy in working with Scott, is you keep asking questions, and you have to not say, I know what's actually the answer. It's let you tell me where I'm wrong and what do I not understand, because most companies stop at, okay, there's somebody in product who wants to use a lightning connector or a thunder connector because they want it to be small so that we can shrink the size of it. But now you're cutting off an entire generation of people. And so that, again, I think if you're thinking about products, you need to take that mindset of what are the things that other people aren't looking at that my customers are telling me for free.
Right. Exactly. And there's 3 parts to that. One is you got to listen to your customers, really understand their needs, and seek to solve their needs. The second is you got to have the technical capability to go solve it. I've met many great designers. They know what they want to go do, but many people only design software apps, right? They're like, well, yeah, we're going to throw an app on the iPad. We quickly discovered, and we didn't really cover this, it was in that first 6-month period, we said, we're going to have to tackle the whole enchilada here: hardware, software, and service.
You forked Android, is that correct? Or
yeah, we did deep integration into Android and made UI change. It is Android under the covers, but you can't get to Android. It's locked down. You don't have all the confusing pull downs and whatnot. But this is a custom designed tablet from scratch. We're actually building the next generation one right now. So most people either don't know how to do that, don't have the capital to do it, or don't take the time to do it and say, well, we'll just put an app in the App Store. This was designed from scratch. Like the angle that the tablet sits on when it's sitting on the table, we measure the angle so it's sitting on the table. The video camera is just at the perfect angle that grandma can do a video call with a kid. You can't, you just throw it in there. You can throw it any old way and it always works. The cable doesn't pull out. You know how a lot of things like you accidentally pull out the cable and now I can't get that back in the little USB. The cord on this thing is super long, so I don't have to get an extension cord, and I just plug it in. Like those are all the little fit and finish things. Oh, by the way, there's a little light on it, so when you plug it in, you can see that it's on. You don't have to guess, right? So those are the things we took the time to do, but we also had the software, hardware, engineering capacity to go do it. We're either dumb enough to tackle it or brave enough, depending on your perspective.
Yeah. No, that's great. And again, I think for folks who have never built a product, it's hard to appreciate how hard it is to get these things right. So even though I think when you see Michael Jordan dunk or you see Muhammad Ali throw a punch, it seems easy, but these things are really hard to do. But again, having worked with you, Scott, I can totally understand why you were uniquely prepared to make these things look so simple.
Yeah, and I just strongly believe in the Apple quote that if you want to do great software, you have to do the hardware, right? And you see the world coming around to that now everywhere, that people don't say, well, I'm going to go buy this piece of hardware and this piece of software. True consumer uh,
experiences.
products is it's the hardware, the software, and the service. Like we have our own customer care. That's a key part of it. You've got to manage the entire customer experience from the first time they hear about your product all the way to the last day they use it.
Yeah, that's great advice. So we talked about music. Let's talk a little bit about games and kind of what they play in this whole thing. Because games seem silly, but let's be honest, most things that were invented that are important came from entertainment.
Games is a great one because not only is it entertaining, a great way to, instead of sitting and watching depressing news all day, I can play games, dexterity, and cognitive fitness and enjoyable. So whether it's something like solitaire, which is very popular, to blackjack, to slots. Slots is a good one. We built all these 100% ourselves, and and so good old slots game, fun, engaging. We actually have a real world game tournaments on here that people will play, and so bingo, and like getting the user experience right and making it so that it's easy, engaging, fun, and no ads. I'm not getting popped out to some bad guy website. Now I'm getting all my money stolen. You're in a protected, safe environment, right? So I can play bingo. Or I like to show like bridge is extremely sophisticated, crossword puzzles, simple ones like tic-tac-toe. Memory is kind of interesting that this is the old match 2 memory game, but instead of it being cards, it's actually profile pictures of the family, right? So these are all the kids and grandkids. Here, let's see if I can get one right. Let's see, did I see that? No, I'm having a tough time here. I think that was there, right? Yeah. So, there's the family pictures. And so, but what's cool, and this may bridge to the next topic, every touch, every tap is measured. So that performance of how my gameplay and my cognitive fitness on that game can be reported back to the senior, the family, their caregiver, right? So if, and this is a fairly easy game, you can turn it up, harder or easier, or, but for most people, they can come in and they can easily do this in about 30 or 45 seconds. If my gameplay suddenly changes all of a sudden, and sadly, I saw this with a senior where we could see, she'd been doing it in 35 seconds every day, no problem. She'd enjoyed doing it. She enjoyed seeing the picture of kids. All of a sudden, it was taking her 3 or 4 minutes, which is basically just brute force guessing. You're just tapping on things. This lady had some mini strokes that were affecting her cognitive capability.
Wow. And normally you'd have to have an MRI to detect that. But as we've seen with data, there are amazing things that you can unlock with data. And so maybe they have to go give her an MRI, or did they have to? Or?
They did. But the strange thing was she had no speech impairments. There was none of the kind of real obvious physical things that you see, because some of these small mini strokes, you just can't tell. The only way you can really is go do deep examinations with MRIs. But this was a quantitative way to say something has changed. Yesterday, her gameplay was here. Today, it's way, way worse. So,
6X is clearly a problem. 6 to 10X is clearly a problem. And so I imagine for a partner like Home Instead, this is very convincing. Like, hey, we're trying to help add value to our clients, and this is a better way that's non-invasive. They're enjoying it while they're doing it, and we're just getting the data, and they're telling us signals.
That's right.
It's really it really explains why digital is such a pursued channel that people are investing all this money into.
That's right.
Yep. Oh, that's great. So what about photos? I got to imagine photos are a big deal. By the way, before we talk about that, I was in Best Buy today, and I noticed that there was a Polaroid, and it actually will print a picture out. So maybe some technologies are coming back, but photos clearly are one of the most important things in anybody's experience through life. And I mean, you can look back at the Sumerians and they're drawing pictures of people. Like it's just clearly a big part of our being. So what do photos play in the role of grandpa?
it's the most valuable content. So
Yeah.
the seniors, we're all taking photos and Snapchatting and Facebooking, but grandma can't see it. So, but here she can easily see photos and videos,
Mhm.
and they just show up in a really simple, easy, enjoyable way, right? So seeing all those pictures of the kids and grandkids
And can
come.
grandma figure out the swipe? I mean, it seems pretty natural. I'm just curious.
Oh, there's a button here.
Oh,
She can
there's a
just
button too. Okay.
she can just hit the button.
That's great.
That's actually me and Anna, age 114, right there. She was a really beautiful soul, and that's a good example. Me, I'm in her home. I'm listening. She's talking. It was not a stage photo. Just my friend that was with me took a picture. So,
That's great.
yeah, the photos and the way that works is the family and kids and grandkids, they all use our free companion app on their iPhone. So just like Facebook and Instagram or anything. Let me get down to some good
I
pictures.
compare your companion app to, there's two versions of Uber or Lyft, right? There's the version the driver sees, and there's the version that the rider sees, right?
That's right. Yep, exactly. And so, this is for the family, kind of the driver, and they can take pictures and share them. And we have the concept, it's the trusted family circle, the circle of trust. Grandma and grandpa are at the center. All the kids and grandkids are around them. We always keep using the device and interact the same way. You can share out of your camera roll. You can share from Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
but then those pictures are shared with the whole family and with grandma. And then everybody can comment and engage in them.
Wow. That's awesome. That's so cool that they're using Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Probably don't even know what those are and don't need to know what they are.
Right. Yeah. We now what's interesting is we see people maybe that are using a lot of Facebook, their behavior tends to change. Once they get GrandPad set up for their whole family, they start to use their private family social network as only GrandPad, and they're sharing on GrandPad only. These are the pictures of the new baby and mom in the hospital, and these are family pictures. You don't want those on Facebook where your creepy coworker is looking at it, right? So people's behavior starts to bifurcate. LinkedIn's for professional networking, Facebook's for sharing with your college buddies, GrandPad's for sharing with your family.
That's great. So talk a little bit about phone and video, because I think you showed that feature or talked about that feature a little bit before.
Yeah, so we've got great. I mean, this has cellular data, 4G LTE built in. You do not need Wi-Fi. Seniors take this with them everywhere they go. It's their phone, and so they can go if they want to just dial. They can dial any number in the world that's included in it. There's no extra charge for that. Or if I want to do a phone call or video call with my son Scott, I can push phone or video call, and I'm connected. I'll actually,
That's really cool.
yeah, and I can as the son now, as the grandson here, I can initiate the call from my phone. If I want to call Grandpa Scott, I can do that. I've got to just, so now I'm initiating. So son Scott is calling Grandpa Scott, and Grandpa Scott picks up his GrandPad and sees that it's ringing. I can see that's my son Scott calling, and now we'll be connected on a video call.
Wow.
Right. And so
that's awesome. And it's just funny seeing the two different interfaces, because the interface that the call was initiated on clearly was relevant to the initiator, but it's very different from what grandma is seeing.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I'll show you one other cool new feature, John, that's new. Sorry, of course you get one.
Oh, no problem.
So we now have a ability to record that conversation, again, with the senior's consent, but now you'll see here that it's recording. So as grandma is talking to her grandson, that phone call or that video call can be recorded. We're often, seniors will use GrandPad in the last years of their life, and in an end of life situation, it's called capture the memory. And so now me as the grandson, when that video call is completed, I'm emailed a link. I have that link. I have that whole memory captured. In many cases, might be the last conversation that I get to have with my grandma. And I have,
and I can imagine that when you go to set up the memorial, that's probably very valuable data to have, because so often most of the memorial services that I go to, you're looking at Polaroid pictures from maybe 20, 30 years ago, but now you're seeing videos at the end, and the joy they get from their grandkids, their great grandkids. That's awesome.
Right. Yep.
Very cool. Now, Uber and Lyft have both had IPOs. So obviously a big part of our world is the changing dynamic of transportation. And you have some features in this where you can help with mobility and getting around town for grandma.
Yeah, absolutely. We have full integration. We're a key strategic partner with Lyft, and Lyft is fantastic. But again, using the Lyft app on an iPhone for someone who's 90 is just not practical.
I can't touch half the buttons on Lyft. I actually probably need GrandPad just for Lyft.
Yeah, well, we can set you up with that. So, here's our transportation. You see it's powered by Lyft.
Yeah.
I can begin ordering a ride. So it's the same easy interface. We built all this. It used all the Lyft backend APIs, and it's the same Lyft experience, but with some extra safety features. And so instead of me having to, drop the pin and say where I'm at, I can say, well, I'm at home. I want to be picked up at my home. These can all be pre-programmed. So that confirms my address. Where would you like to go? I'd like to go to the House of Blues and have some dinner, listen to some blues music. And there's the address. I can confirm that. And so now it will say, I'm going from home to the House of Blues, and I can order the ride. But notice at all times is this call support button. Mm-hmm. And many seniors are not comfortable, like, okay, how, or I'm getting picked up at the shopping mall, which floor, and so on. That customer, when you call that, it goes to our customer care, GrandPad's customer care. We know who the person calling is. We know where they are with their GrandPad. We can see the ride. And so we then are the bridge, and we talk to the Lyft driver. As many of us have called our drivers before, sometimes that's not always very easy talking to your driver and so on.
If your hearing's impaired, that could be very difficult, right?
Right. So we handle that, and we talk to the driver and say, you need to pick up Mrs. Johnson. She's at the South Coast Shopping Plaza. She's standing right in front of the Macy's store on the second floor. She's wearing a red dress, and we've told her you're driving a white Camry. And then we will actually watch the map and see the car pulling up and say, okay, we're talking to the senior. Okay, he's almost there now. He's in the white car. Yep, his name is John. Awesome. We'll actually do ride-alongs with seniors when they're in a car the first few times and help them. So this is a game changer. It's and it can be set up. There's safety features that, again, with the senior's consent, it can send a text message to the adult child, the son or daughter, and say, hey, grandma has just requested a ride to go from her home to the doctor's office. Okay, she's gotten in the car. Okay, the car has arrived. I, as the carrying son or daughter, I can actually call the driver and say, hey, my mom needs a little extra help. She's got a walker and she's a little hard of hearing, and I can be that. So we bridge that together, and then I can see that she safely, arrived at the doctor's office. So
wow, the companion app feature is almost equally powerful to the feature in the app.
Right.
Wow, that's great. Did I miss any other killer features of the app, or?
Well, let's see here. Oh, yes, there's one that you probably haven't seen before. We rolled out a few months ago. So, of course, there's so much great stuff on the internet, and surprisingly, for us younger guys, the number one request we got from the seniors was they wanted a way to go look at the obituaries online. They care deeply about, hey, the high school that maybe I live in California now, but I went to high school in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I want to go back, and I want to keep an eye on my hometown where I grew up, because if any of my buddies from high school or college pass away, I want to pay my respects. I would feel terrible if one of my friends passed away and I didn't hear about it. So they want to check obituaries in different places. Of course, all that's on the web. But if I don't have a computer, smartphone, don't have a way to do that, I'm out of the loop, right? Yeah. So we created a safe, simple browser that has all the benefits to get on the internet, but in a much easier way. So let me just jump to the second one is the obituaries, obits. And this is the legacy site. And you'll see, so these can be pre-programmed by anything. The senior can set it up. We can do it for them, or their family can do it. And this is now, I'm on this legacy.com website, and I can search for the obits. I don't ever have to type, www dot anything. I'm just in this very simple interface. Easy controls. When I'm done, I can exit out of that.
And you're not pushing any ads, because one way to monetize this would be, here's lead generation for these other services, but you made a conscious decision that that's not how we're making money.
It's a fundamental difference.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook's business model is, give us all your data. We're going to sell it to the advertisers. That's how they make money. But you got to give us all your data. The service to you, Facebook user, is free. That's the value exchange. Our value exchange is, pay us for the service. We're going to provide a valuable service focused on improving your life. We're never going to sell your data. We're never going to do ads.
Well, so not to put you on the spot, but if I have a super senior parent who unfortunately passes away, as we all do, inevitable, right? How do you think about, if that happens, I could potentially connect you with some service providers that you might need to know about? How do you think about that? Do you just say, that's just not the world that I play in, I'm never going to go there? Or do you think that that's something that could eventually actually be a value add for the 50 or 60-year-old son or daughter?
Yeah. So, what I call true curated information that